Hello, you are listening to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we celebrate films we think deserve a little bit more love. Whether they're underrated or underseen, we're going to tackle them one film at a time. It's me again this week on my own. I'm doing another one of your listeners' suggestions, so we're going to get into that in a minute. Before we do, if you could head on over to whatever app you're listening to this on, give us a rating and review. It's massively, massively helpful, so please do that because it helps other people find us and listen to what we think of your suggestions. And hey, we might get some more suggestions along the way as well. If you do want to suggest a film for us to take a look at, then drop us an email at filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. It's in the show notes as well. Tell us a suggestion for a film that you think is underrated or underseen. Tell us why, and tell us a little bit about yourself. You can even do it with a voice note if you want. That's what Gary did. He got in touch and he suggested Run Lola Run from 1998. So spoiler warnings if you hadn't seen it. Gary's dropped us an email, not a voice note, and this is what Gary had to say. Hi guys, I live in a sleepy North Norfolk and I've loved films and the cinema since I first saw The Jungle Book and Close Encounters when I was about 5 years old. Any genre, but I do like foreign language movies as their storylines and views on things tend to be quite different to the standard Hollywood model. Old Boy blew me away when I first saw it, and it still does. Run Lola Run, or Lola Rent, to give it its original German title, is one of my favourite ever movies and set in one of my favourite cities. Think Sliding Doors, which was released in the same year, but take out the annoying whiny accent, harsh on Gwyneth Paltrow there, relocate to gritty urban late 90s Berlin, throw in some fourth wall breaking animation and a thumping techno soundtrack, and that's the heartbeat of the movie, and change the plot so it's actually good and refreshingly imaginative, and you'll have a fair idea of Lola Rent, I think Gary saying there. This is a movie I've watched probably more than any other since its release. It's like cocaine for the eyes and never fails to keep me engaged and tapping my foot along with the soundtrack as Lola races through Berlin with only 20 minutes to save her boyfriend Manny. You get the same story 3 times, and using the butterfly wings principle, it changes each time based on how Lola starts out, being either early or late at significant points of her journey. Love it. I'd say it's underrated purely based on the fact that most people I speak to have never heard of it. I was in Berlin a couple of weeks ago, and I even visited some of the filming locations, as well as also Goodbye Lenin, like Run Lola Run. Anything goes in Berlin. So that's what Gary reckons. So Gary's saying it's underrated. So let's get stuck into it then. So little reminder of the structure. I'm going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and then we'll go into the critical reception, the box office and things like that. And we'll have a little look at what we think, or what I think. Okay, so again, Gary's pretty much done the plot there. So I don't think I really need to get into it. But just in case you're not sure you missed it, essentially Lola is the main character, played by Franka Potente, and her boyfriend loses a bag of money, which is meant for a dangerous gangster. He basically says to Lola, "You've got 20 minutes to try and find and save me." And then basically you see different scenarios as to what she does to try and get to him, get that money and save him and things like that. Along the way, Lola runs into different characters. And along the way, as she runs into these different characters and takes different actions, you see how those actions and things like that would affect those characters' lives. Going in, I hadn't seen this one all the way through. When I did film studies back in college 700 years ago, just after this had come out, we studied some of this, but I don't know if I'd ever gone back to it. Because after college comes university, and after university comes adult life, which is awful. Let's just all agree on that. But anyway, no, I hadn't seen it all the way through, but it had always been on my list to watch. So getting into the likes then, Gary, I love this. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. This is one of those films that is almost more of an experience than a film. And I don't mean that I probably mean it in the more film critic wanky way, rather than that mean way people slag off comic book films in, they're more like theme park rides, this, that, and the other, but rather what this was for me, and what I mean by say it was an experience, is that it took all that was good and creative about filmmaking and to explore themes, to tell a story, to keep you entertained all at the same time. So I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, the whole thing is an exploration in time and causality, and like Gary said, the sort of butterfly wings, butterfly effect type thing. If she does X, Y will happen, and things like that. So for starters, all of the aesthetics and the visuals and the audio work so well throughout to explore that theme. The camera never really stops moving. I mean, she is literally running for most of the film. It looked knackering, but yeah, she's running for most of the film. The camera never stops moving. When it does stop moving, it's usually using weird angles and things like that. So you got quite a lot of discombobulating angles, camera styles as well. A little bit of handheld in there. The editing I thought was razor sharp in this. I mean, not a moment is wasted. It's 80 minutes, which that, again, thank you, Gary. Very respectful of my time. We've had a few people who've suggested like 18-hour films and stuff like that, and I just don't have the time, Gary. But no, it's so tight. It's 80 minutes. Nothing is wasted. It's got more plot and character development in this in 80 minutes than I've seen in 180 minutes. Back to the aesthetics as well. It's got that, like Gary said, those late 90s thumping kinetic cinema pulsing beats throughout. Think Trainspotting, think of Go, which is another film we did. This is in that sort of ballpark. There's a metronomic ticking sound all the way through. And all this, particularly the music and the camera, does so much to really elevate the tension and make you literally feel like you are being dragged along for a ride in the best possible sense in terms of what the film is trying to do to you as an audience member. Lots of different forms of media too as well, which I really liked. I loved the animation. I thought that worked really well in the places that it worked and things like that. It's sort of like a real mixture between everything that's good about comic books and music videos. So I think if those are the mediums you like, if you like that sort of, like you say, punky aesthetic as well, you really like this. I think so. It reminded me of things like Scott Pilgrim, which I think probably owes this quite a lot, and that's not a film that I'm a massive lover of either. So then onto the themes as well. That exploration of cause and effect, that causality, the way it sets everything up and plays with cause and effect and free will and fate, chaos theory and chance, reality and fantasy. Loved it. Like, I thought it was so interesting, like so intricate in the way it must have been written. I mean, I'd be interested to know how much of how much of this was really storyboarded and how much of it I imagine a lot of it must have been, because it's so intricate in the way it's put together. The little glimpses you get into people's stories and people's lives, because you see a lot of people's past, but more importantly, you see a lot of people's future and that exploration again of cause and effect. I thought it was really interesting, that use of perspective as well. So it did remind me of things, again, not to be a wanky film critic, but because we've done it on the podcast. We covered Rashomon a little while ago as one of our classic episodes, and that we talked a lot in that about how that film really sets the bar in terms of how you explore perspective and recollection and memory and things like that. And this definitely owes a little bit to that, and it does it really, really well. I like what it had to say about Lola as well. There's a hint in there that she's almost she's almost like a supernatural being, like some sort of fairy on a journey to try and save Manny, her boyfriend, in the way that she appears to be at the center of this world. And the characters she runs into, some of them are random, but as it goes along, you realize that not all of them are random, and some of them just are people that she knows in this, one of the biggest cities in Europe. And it's almost as if she has, she almost has like a supernatural power to her. I mean, there's a bit at the end where she ends up in an ambulance with a guy, and it appears as if she almost sustains his life or keeps him alive in a sort of like mythological sense. So, and it never clears it up, but I really enjoyed those little hints and tricks like that it played on you to keep you guessing and keep you entertained. I mean, yeah, overall, so much to like in there. Really, really enjoyed it. In terms of the dislikes, look, we always try and be balanced. There was a little bit like with The Fly. We always try and be balanced. It's so tight and so well made. I really struggle to think of any, but in the interest of balance, there is the odd moment of overacting and hammy acting, which it goes with the style, but unlike the style, the acting hasn't aged as well. So there's a little bit of screechiness in there, not just from Lola, a little bit of screechy acting from perhaps Lola and the chap who plays Manny, but it's not that bad. It's just it verged on the sort of irritating side at points. Let's get into the critical reception of it all then. So just to remind you of the scores, we will take the IMDb, we'll take the Rotten Tomatoes audience and critics score, and we will average those out. And then we'll figure out if that is or isn't underrated, and we'll have a little look at the box office as well. So at the time of recording, over on IMDb, it gets 7.6 out of 10. The Rotten Tomatoes audience give it 90%, and the Rotten Tomatoes critics give it 94%, which averages out at about 86%. And then that is box office wise, we're looking at journalist checks notes, $7.6 million worldwide, which obviously, again, as we always say, would not sniff at $7.6 million, but for a film, it's not that much. However, you probably say from a widely seen point of view, its legacy is quite clear in terms of what came after it, and even in terms of like music videos and stuff like that. So ratings wise, that 86% average, I would say, is about right, in that, I do think it's a sort of 8.5, maybe 9 out of 10. Really, really enjoyed it. And I think a lot of people who saw it, liked it. And I think the issue with this is perhaps it's not underrated, although it's amazing. Really, really enjoyed it. I wonder if the issue with this, Gary, and feel free to email me if you think it's incorrect, but I wonder if the issue with this is people are not going back to it. So its legacy of what came after it is clear to see, but only when you go back and look at it. Like a lot of good classic films, actually, and like a lot of sort of Hitchcock and things like that. So I would say it is underseen, because I wonder if not that many people are going back and watching it. And it's a shame, because there's loads to like on this. It's really tight. It's really breezy. And it's also a film where, unless you are fluent in German, you can't go on your phone. So I think it's well worth a breezy, tense 80 minutes. And I definitely think I would watch it again. And I think people out there should seek it out. So Gary, thank you very much for suggesting it. And I hope it's what you wanted. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, if like Gary, you want to suggest a film, then do so. As I said at the start of the episode, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. We're on all the social medias. If you search Just Films and That, then you'll find us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. All that remains to be said is thanks very much for listening. Thank you again, Gary, and we'll see you next week. It's goodbye from me. Cheerio.